This is Gemara Sanhedrin, Daf Samach Ches. We're holding in the bottom of Samach Zayin Amid Beis, middle of some fascinating discussions about Kishuf. Today's shir should be an incredible zchus Rafua Shalima for Tinok ben Miriam Ahuva B'Seich Sha'ar Chayle Yisrael. We're holding on Samach Ches Zayin Amid Beis, about 14 lines from the bottom. First word line is Ahi Achiza Seinayim Have. We're in the middle of discussing different cases and quantifying and clarifying whether the case is a case of actual kishif, whether the case is a case of Achiza Seinayim, more what we would call magic nowadays. It just looks like something, etc. Says the Gemara. Ziri Iklal Alexandria Shal Mitzrayim. Ziri arrived in Alexandria of Egypt. Zavan Chamara purchased a donkey, and he didn't realize that this was a donkey that was created through magic. So he has this donkey. He thinks it's a real chamar, and believe it or not, it was created through kishuf. He reaches, he comes to give the camel a drink of water. Pashar, all of a sudden the spell, the kishuf, wears out. The kam gamla dus kanita, and the donkey became a piece of wood. Amrulei. So Ziri goes back to the person he bought this donkey from and says, "This is ridiculous." So says the person he loves Ziriat, if it's not the fact that you were the great Ziri, lo yavi madrina lecha, I will not reimburse you. Is there anyone who buys anything over here in Alexandria without first testing it over water? Apparently that was a classical test for the spell to dissolve, to make sure that the animal was a real animal. But because you're Ziri, we will give you a refund. And continues the Gemara with another story. We're at the 2 dots, 10 lines on the bottom. Yanei arrives at an inn, Amr Lahu. He says to the innkeeper, Ashkayin Maya, give me a drink of water. Karivu Shatisa. They bring him a Shatisa drink. Chaza de Kamaracha Shin Sifsasa. He sees the waitress is serving him. Yanei sees her lips are moving, realizing she's engaging in sorcery. Shada Porta Mine. He pours a bit off of the drink. Havi Akrabe. And the liquid he poured off turned into scorpions. Amr Lahu, he said to them, I drink from yours, you drink from mine. Ashkayo havai chamara. He gave her some of his own concoction, and what happened? It turned into a donkey. Rachva, he rode upon it, salak l'shuka, and he went to the marketplace. Asa chavrata. Her friend came, Pasharlah, and dissolved the spell. Chazye derachev yanei. Therefore, again, I don't know if I was clear. She drank it, and she became the donkey, this waitress. So Yanei's riding a donkey. Her friend comes, dissolves the spell, and all of a sudden, Yanei's sitting there riding upon a woman. The kai atisa beshuka. That's what is seen. Another fascinating story. Continues the Gemara, going back to Mitzrayim. Vatal atzvardeya, and the tzvardeya went up at chasas eretz Mitzrayim, and it covered eretz Mitzrayim. Amar Rav Elazar, tzvardeya achas haisa. There was only one frog, kashrisa umila kol eretz Mitzrayim. The frog went, and then many frogs were created, went out of all of Mitzrayim. Explains the Gemara Ketanai. This is an earlier machlekes Tanai and Rabbi Kiva. Amar Achas Haisa Malach Eretz Mitzrayim. Amar Le Rav Elazar ben Azariah Kiva Malach Eitel Haggadah. Kiva, what are you talking about? What do you have to do with Haggadah? Kalei midaber asicha v'leich. Stop talking and go out. Eat on the guy and v'halos. Go learn other areas of Torah. It was one frog, but as it croaked, all other frogs in the world came and joined it. It wasn't that it actually gave birth to more frogs, just other frogs came. Machlekes, what exactly happened by Svardeya? And with that, we go into the last part of the Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Akiva, turning over to Samaches Samar Aleph, and as you turn over the Amid, you can see that B'siyata Deshmaya, will be wrapping up this 7th parak of Sanhedrin momentarily. Says the Gemara, a long brisa about the machlokes Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer, about the Lakitas Kishuim, the gathering of the cucumbers that we saw in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yeshua, Gamar La. Did Rabbi Akiva learn this from Rabbi Yeshua? V'atanya, kishachal Rabbi Eliezer, nechzor Rabbi Akiva, chavir levak. Rabbi Eliezer is sick and Rabbi Akiva and his friends comes to visit him. Hu Yaishe, Rabbi Eliezer said, Bekin of Shaloi, and it can't be bad. Vein Yaish, Vein Betraklin Shaloi. And Rabbi Akiva and everyone else were sitting around. That day was Erev Shabbos Hayav and Ichdas Horkenis Benai. And Horkenis, Rabbi Eliezer's son, enters Lachaloit's Tfilav to take off Rabbi Eliezer's tefillin. Garbai. V'yatzeh ben Izif. Rabbi Eliezer yells at him, and he left in shame. So these friends, Rabbi Akiva, etc., said to Rabbi Eliezer, Kimadoma Ani, it appears, it seems like your mind is not so clear. Amr lehen, Rabbi Eliezer responds, Daita v'das imoi nitrafa. Indeed, says Rabbi Eliezer, no, Daitoi, his das, Horkenis, v'das imoi, and his mother's mind are nitrafa, are messed up. Heich manichin, Isser skilin, v'oiskin v'isser shvos. How can you leave an Isser skila? How can you neglect areas that have a potential severe punishment and occupy with Amir Shvos? What was he referring to? The Isser skila, of course, is Shabbos preparations. Isser Shvos is tefillin. So you say, what do you go dealing with my tefillin? Go finish up the Shabbos preps. Says the Gemara, Kivin Shirach Chachamim, Shedaitai Miyusheves Alav. When the Chachamim saw that his das was clear, Nichlasu, they entered, V'yashul Afana Mirachik Talat Amos, and they sat 4 amos away. Why 4 amos away? Explains Rashi that Rabbi Eliezer was in Chayrim. Why? Because he didn't listen to certain areas of, let's look at Rashi, Rabbi Eliezer did not acquiesce, even though he was not in the Roif. Says the Gemara, Amar Le, Lama Basem. Says Rabbi Eliezer, why are you here? Amar Le, Lilmai Tayrabani, want to learn? Amar Le, Vadakshav, Lama Le Batam, why didn't you come until now? Amar Le, they responded, Leo, Lana Benai, we didn't have time. Amar Le, Tamiani, I don't understand. Tamiani, it's a wonder. Im Yamusumi, says Atzman. I would be surprised if you guys, if the Chachamim would die a natural death. Amrullah Rabbi Akiva says, Shalimahu. What's my death going to be? Amrullah Shalcha Kashem Yishalahen. Rabbi Eliezer foretells that your death will be the worst of all of them. Rabbi Eliezer takes his 2 arms and he puts them on his heart. Amar oy lachem shtei zeraisai. Woe to my 2 arms, shen kishtei sifrei Torah, shen giglalim, like 2 sifrei Torah that are rolled up. Harbei Torah lamadati, harbei Torah limadati. I learned a lot of Torah. I taught a lot of Torah. Harbei Torah limadati, v'lechasarti me'arabaisa afilu kikelav amlakim min hayam. I learned a lot of Torah, but yet it was like a dog lapping up the water from the sea. I mamish, my teachers had so much more that I didn't learn. I taught a lot of Torah. My students only took out like the amount that an applicator is dipped into iPad or mamished 1 little bit. And continues Rabbi Eliezer, not only that, Ella, Shani Shaineshal Shmeos Halachais Bebaheres Azo. I taught 300 halachais regarding the type of saras called Baheres. And no one ever asked me a question. I taught 300 halachais. This is more weight. Some say it was 3,000 halachais. It was 3,000 halachais. Benetias Keshuyin, with regard to the planting of cucumbers, regarding to planting of cucumbers through sorcery, through Kishav, which was our Mishnah. No one asked anything. Chutz Me'akiva ben Yosef. Sorry for Akiva ben Yosef, Rabbi Akiva, and this really circles us back around to our Mishnah. Now the Gemara tells the story. Pamachas ani v'hu mahalchim. One time said Rabbi Lezer, ayin he ayin Rabbi Akiva. We're walking. Ayin about derech amar li. And Rabbi Akiva said, Rabbi, lamdeinu minatiyas kishu. Rabbi, teach me about planting the cucumbers. In the first white line, amarti davar echad. I said one word, and ismalikul asadi kishum, and the entire field was filled with cucumbers. Amarti davar amarli, said Rabbi, lemadati nitiyasan. So then Rabbi Akiva said, you talking about planting? Lemadati akirosam. Now how about uprooting them? Amarti davar echan iskapsu kulam lamakayim echad. I said another word, and all the cucumbers were in one place. Concludes Rav Eliezer. Amrulai, the Chacham said to Rav Eliezer, Hakadar. What about the halachas of a ball, ve'amos, a shoe form, kimia, an amulet, v'atzarar, a rack, a pouch, a margolios, a surar, margolios, umishkolis, ketana, a small weight, mau. What is the halacha? Are these things mikabel tumah or not? Amr Rav Eliezer responds, hein tamehem. They are tamei. They are chukshar likabel tama. But if you rip them open, then you could put them into the mikvah without emptying out the contents from the middle. Minol shal gabe ha'amos mahu. What about a shoe on top of the form? The shoe's being created. That leather shoe is in makabel tama. Amrlem hutar. It is tar. And with that, Rav Eliezer is nifter. Amar Rabbi Yeshua Ragla, Rabbi Yeshua gets up on his feet. Amar says Rabbi Yeshua, Hutar aneder, Hutar aneder. The neder, the Rav Eliezer, was put into Chayrim is annulled. L'motzai Shabbos, again, this was Erev Shabbos. L'motzai Shabbos, where Rabbi Akiva meets Min Kesarei Lilod. Rav Akiva meets the Levaya and he accompanies it from Kesar to Lod. Haya Makab Ibsarai. Rav Akiva kept on hitting himself in such utter pain over the death of Rav Eliezer till blood is splurting onto the ground. Pasach alav v'shura. He opened up with the following line: V'amar Avi Avi, my father, Rechav Yisrael uparashav. Chariot of Klal Yisrael, Harbe Mois Yishli. I have a lot of money. Ve'ein leishol chani l'artzaisam. But Mois Rav Akiva, I have money, I have Torah, but I don't have a money changer to deal with it. I need someone to be able to teach me Torah. Says the Gemara, Alma Rav Elazar Gemara. We see at the end of the story that Rav Akiva learns from Rav Elazar. So the kasha is, in our Mishnah, who did Rav Akiva learn about the kishuf of the kishum of the cucumbers from? It seems clear as from Rav Eliezer. Explains the Gemara, Gamra, Rav Eliezer. But Veloi Svara, he didn't understand it. Other Gamra Rabbi Yeshua, V'asvara Nialei, and Rabbi Yeshua explained it to him fully. Says the Gemara, Hechi Avid Hachi, back to the story of Rav Eliezer. How was he able to do this? Vanan Tanan, Haisa Maisa Chayiv. If someone does an action of sorcery, is Chayiv Misa. So how was Rav Eliezer able to do it? Says Gemara, Leslami China, he was doing it to teach. Damar Mar, we have learned Loi Silmad Lasois. Says the pasuk by different forms of kishuf that what Loi Silmad Lasois, you cannot learn to act. However, aval yatalamad, lahavin u'lohireis, you're allowed to do it, lahavin, to understand, u'lohireis, and to teach. Hajon aloch arba misais, an incredible chazara certainly must be done. And we right away turn over to Daf Samachasam and Beis Ben Soira Umayrer, beginning a new parak. The incredible halachas, as we'll see, of the wayward child, the gluttonous child, and many of the halachas in between. Says the Gemara, let's begin. Ben Soira Umayrer. Says the Mishnah, a Ben Soira Umayrer, may even say Nasa Ben Soira Umayrer, when is that? Says the Mishnah, Mishavish Shtei Sairos. When he has Shtei Sairos, Vachi Yakiv Zakan, until his beard grows fully around. Hatachtoin v'lo ya'elyon, says the Gemara, when it says that the zaken, this is not referring to the beard on the face, but rather it's referring to the zaken hatachtoin, shtei sayros, the pubic hairs, v'lo ya'elyon, and not facial hair. Elo shedibru chachamim b'lashon nekiah, Chazal speak in a clean language, and Emar, as the pasuk says, ki elish ben v'lo bas, ben v'lo ish, katan, wait, I read that wrong. One more time. Ben v'lo bas, ben v'lo ish. So, ben v'lo ish, meaning a child that's starting to develop, and v'lo ish, not one that is fully developed. Katan potter, and the Mishnah concludes that a katan is potter from being a ben terem. Ma'aresh loba lechlal mitzvahs, that he's not chayiv in mitzvahs yet. Says the Gemara, katan min alam de potter, but we know that a katan is potter. Kedeketani katan min alam de potter. Min alam kedeketani taima shlabach la mitzvahs. Where we found that a pasuk, the punish is a katan, you only need an exclusion if you have a havamina. Says the Gemara, what's the havamina by a katan? Explains the Gemara, nanachi kaminan. Atu ben Sarah Mara, Chatay Nerag, is Ben Sarah Mara killed for the sin right now? No, that's all you side of Ben Sarah Mara. Al Shem Saifai Nerag. The cave on the Al Shem Saifai Nerag is being killed for the future. Afilu Katanami, a child as well, because eventually the kid will grow up. Void. Says the Gemara, Ben V'loi Ish Katan Mashma. Ben, but not an adult applies. That katan, yes. Ben v'loy ish, katan sounds like he could yes be chayiv. Amar Rav Yudah Marav, Damar Akrav, v'chiyal ish ben. Ben asomuch like avrusay shalish. Indeed, you're right, it has to be close, it has to be one. With shtei sayros. However, it cannot be a full katan. And we wrap up today's shir. We're on the second half of Samachas Mebeis. The Mishnah taught us until his lower beard circles around. Tani Rav Chia, atara, until it grows around the pubic area like an atara, like a crown, says the Gemara. Ki asa Rav Dimi Amar, hakafas gid v'lo hakafas beitzim. This refers to around the gid, around the aver, but not around the beitzim, not around the testicles. Amar Rav Chisda, continues the Gemara, katan shahaylid ein benoi nasa ben sayrer umayr. If a katan gives birth to a child, his son cannot be a ben sayrer umayr. Shenemar ki leish, has to be an ish that has a ben. Leish ben v'loi leben ben. Says the Gemara, but wait, haimi bailech chruva amarav, this for Rav Yudah Marav. Imkein leimar kra kia ben leish. My kia leish ben in the reverse order. Shma amina lech Rav Chisda ve'imol kula achudasa. Maybe it's all coming to teach us this halacha. Says the Gemara, Imkein neimar kra ben ish. My leish ben shma amina tarti. We learn out both halachas from here. We're going to stop over here. I'll pick it up from Rabbah who argues the next year. B'siyata dishmaya.